Nioh was announced ages ago, back in 2004. It was actually announced prior to Koei and Tecmo's merger in 2009. There was no gameplay actually shown originally, so no one knew what the project would be. The title was handed off between a few different teams before it was taken over by Tecmo's Team Ninja. Omega Force even had their hands on it, but the producer of the game didn't want it to be another Dynasty Warriors game. Nioh would continue to sit in development hell until 2010 when it started to take shape thanks to Team Ninja's efforts. In early 2016, it had an alpha demo released on the PSN for the public to get a good feel of what the title had to offer. Little did people expect they were getting a Dark Souls-like game with an ancient Japanese flair. I sadly missed out on the alpha, but they released a beta demo later that year, improving on everything that was brought to their attention. After the beta demo released and word was spreading that a new Dark Souls-type game was being developed, Nioh gained massive amounts of media coverage, especially here on YouTube. It caught the attention of Sony to the point where they were considering it a first-party priority for advertising and publishing. That is amazing!
Oh, cool! Another Dark Souls-inspired game. Being hailed by some as the best video game of all time, Dark Souls has inspired many popular games of the modern era. Some of these titles include The Witcher 3, Destiny, Salt and Sanctuary, Shovel Knight, and even...
Whoa! What the hell, dude? Can't you see I'm trying to do a video here?
Yeah, but have you ever even played a Dark Souls game?
Well, maybe like 15 minutes of Demon Souls on PS3.
Oh boy. You might need some help going through this comparison then.
Wait, I wrote the script as a PVC. You mean I have to rewrite the entire script?
Dude, no. You started this as a comparison, and then you asked me to collab.
Hey now, that's enough fourth wall breaking. Let's just get on with this. Let's take a look at the two games from the outside. Nioh is rich with Japanese flavor. The main character, William, is loosely based off of the first European to live in Japan. It's an interesting tale of a Western samurai in a demon-infested land. The original story was actually written by Akira Kurosawa, and you can tell that there were some influences left in. The whole atmosphere just screams classic samurai film with a modern monster twist. It's actually quite refreshing to see a Western character in an Eastern land reacting the way he does, by adapting to his surroundings. William learns the ways of the samurai, and you can tell that the action in this game has a certain level of realism that most action games just don't reach. But that realism was inspired by something else.
Speaking of something else, Dark Souls is a gothic fantasy epic, comparable to a setting one might find in a fantasy tabletop game like Dungeons & Dragons. The game contains a rich lore involving dragons, gods, and undead monsters. What is unique about Dark Souls is the lore is not presented to the player, but discovered through its main gameplay mechanic of unguided exploration.
Yeah, Nioh is very different in this aspect, as the story and lore are presented to you in two major ways, the cutscenes and a bestiary. Dark Souls tends to hide its lore, which can make it exciting to read that little bit of text flavor that your new equipment might have.
Dark Souls is perhaps even better known for its brutal difficulty that harkens back to the NES days of yore. This combination of frustrating challenges and deep fantasy ties make it very appealing to those of us who spent maybe just a little bit too much time rolling dice in our mother's basement.
Nioh is very appealing to those of us who might weeb from time to time. I'm a very big fan of Japanese and Asian culture, especially the food. I also love anime, and Koei Tecmo is my favorite gaming company of all time, so Nioh has a separate appeal to me. But Nioh also has a certain character to it that most Souls-like games just don't have. Though its mechanics may have been borrowed, it still feels individual of what it's trying to emulate. Either way, you're going to have a treat whichever game you decide to go with. Before we jump into the games, let's talk about what you need to understand first. There are some major and minor differences that might help you make your decision. First off, let's talk about the different focus that you're going to have with each game. I personally found that while playing Dark Souls, I'd really have to pump my level ups into skills that would help me equip better armor and weapons. Sam and I played a bit of the first Dark Souls, and to have the better equipment, we couldn't have pants on. Just look at those disgusting legs.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
That's it. Some sort of sexy mod. Progression in Dark Souls games definitely comes in baby steps, or whatever kind of steps those legs take. You'll slowly build your character into the hero or villain you want them to be through actions like gaining enough intelligence to use that spell or enough strength to wield that axe. As your character slowly builds their skills, so do you as a player by developing more of a mastery over the game's mechanics. How you level your character is up to you, but if you want some beginner advice, I'd throw some levels into Vitality so not every single dang monster kills you in one hit.
In Nioh, one of the most important things you should beef up is your ki. The amount of ki you have allows you to attack, defend, run, and dodge, just like with Dark Souls and stamina. But the biggest difference is that after you've attacked, you can hit R1 to draw back your ki. Dodging and running can make your ki drop a little faster in Nioh than in Dark Souls, so it's a good thing to get in the habit of hitting R1 just as you finish your combo.
Yeah, because no one likes likes it when you're out of key. I mean, then there'd be Nioh Hope.
It's no use!
Speaking of Nioh Hope, for beginners, Dark Souls can be a very punishing game, and newbies will be seeing, well, a lot of this. Dark Souls can be tough, but it's usually pretty fair as long as you're comfortable learning the hard way. As a beginner, it's probably best to decide what kind of playstyle suits you best and stick with it. You can be a sorcerer, a two-handed weapon fighter, a rogue, or even some crazy naked guy with a club.
Nioh has several skill trees for each weapon as well as ninjutsu and omnio magic. This gives the game a little bit more of an RPG feeling. A good way to summarize the differences between the two games is that Nioh is a much more action-based action-adventure game, while Dark Souls is a more adventure-based action-adventure game. Dark Souls gives you more to explore and find, while Nioh gives you more to experiment with the combat. Also in Nioh, you use square and triangle to attack, while in Dark Souls you use the shoulder buttons. So we know that Nioh and Dark Souls share a lot in common, but there are some major differences between the two that can make the games really interesting. Nioh has many items that do varying different things. They can heal you, give your weapon an elemental effect, some items damage enemies, while others stun them. There are items that can make you go back to the last shrine you prayed at, but you lose all your Amrita. Or, go back to the last shrine you prayed at and keep your Amrita. Or even go back to the last shrine and William does a facepalm animation because he had a hole in his pocket and some Amrita fell out.
Wait a minute, does that last one really exist?
No, but it might as well.
Dark Souls contains a variety of items as well, with a variety of uses, like pebbles that you can just drop on the ground. Throwing knives that seem to do 0 damage, but sure do make that demon mad, and literal balls of crap that just make people feel yucky. Dark Souls is filled with items. Some very useful ones, like specific rings or herbs that heal status effects, and also many seemingly useless ones, like the few I mentioned before. However, items in Dark Souls have a secondary function in the game. Every item you pick up has a lengthy description to go with it. These item descriptions are one of the main ways Dark Souls communicates its lore to the player. As you discover new areas and new treasures, a player understands more about the world they are inhabiting, albeit a player who is a big nerd that likes to read a million boring item descriptions.
So, you.
Yes, sir. This essence of exploration, investigation, and discovery is the core of both the story and gameplay of the Dark Souls franchise. Wow, and try not to poop your pants while you run away from a giant invincible monster trying to kill you.
Nioh has those moments as well, but it's not quite as common. Enemies are reused a lot through the stages, so you get to learn their varying movesets. In Dark Souls, you're going to find a larger variety of enemies, and they all have differing patterns that you'll need to get used to. In Nioh, enemies only have walking patterns. In battle, they act a lot more random, but telegraph their every move. Both games take on combat in a slightly different way. As I said before, Nioh presents its story via cutscenes and character interaction. These cutscenes are beautiful, and you slowly begin to learn the ins and outs of the various characters, some of whom you might recognize if you play games like Samurai Warriors.
Hey, stay on target.
Right. Nioh's way of presenting the story feels more like a movie. Everything is in front of you, and there are smaller details hidden in the background like Easter eggs. Dark Souls handles its story more like a Tarantino movie penned by George R.R. Martin and written in Shakespearean. The beginning is at the end is at the beginning, and the core story between all of it is somewhere hidden in the spine.
It's true. Dark Souls' story is all over the place, and it takes multiple playthroughs and lots of reading and wiki combing to fully grasp it. Dark Souls uses non-linearity to its advantage, however, by empowering the player's influence on how the events proceed. Don't like this rude NPC? Oh, look who got kicked off a bridge. You won't give me that key until I beat this boss that I'm too scared to fight? Looks like everybody's getting kicked off a bridge today. It may seem a little chaotic, but this style of storytelling helps keep players engaged and compels them to play the New Game Plus over and over and over again until the game gets so dang hard that you throw your controller at the wall and you say, "Frig you, Smo! Go to heck, Orenstein! This game is stupid and I hate it!"
Dude, you okay?
No. I've been broken inside.
The biggest difference between the gameplay of these two games is how you progress. Progression is taken in different ways. Nioh progresses along with you, as you continue to grind or practice or just journey around the stages. You feel a more natural progression than in Dark Souls. At least, I did, because I ain't good. I found in Dark Souls you have to progress with the game. It's a small difference that might sway your decision. Dark Souls is also more open-ended than Nioh. There are many nooks and crannies for you to explore, find secrets, or just another enemy to kill you. In Nioh, you still get those, but not to the extent of Dark Souls. Nioh is more stage-based. You have a hub world map rather than interconnected areas. I would have preferred seeing William travel somehow between these places, on a boat or something rather than just going to a map when you finish a mission. Dark Souls wins in the world exploration department. For me, just because it's such a joy to explore. You know, when you're strong enough to explore. As an action game aficionado, I much prefer the combat system of Nioh. It feels more like what I'm used to with games like Dynasty Warriors.
Hey, stay on target. What?
Where am I?
We're reviewing Nioh and Dark Souls.
But I thought I was playing Dynasty Warriors.
No, that was last month.
Why can't I be playing Dynasty Warriors right now?
Because that demon over there is gonna wreck you. Fuck!
So with everything considered, I give Nioh a 9.5 out of 10. It is nearly perfect, and the only things that would make it a 10 out of 10 would be to take the parts from Dark Souls that I prefer and incorporate them into Nioh. Stuff like the larger world and hidden lore in items. Though Nioh has a lot of lore that you have to go looking for, it's more about the enemy types and the Japanese mythology about the Oni than the fictional versions of these real characters. You can tell that these are very different from their historical counterparts, and I'd love to see these characters more fleshed out.
Now, full disclosure, my dudes, I haven't played Nioh all the way through, so I can't really call myself an expert. From what I've seen, though, it has a stunning and consistent visual design, as well as a comprehensive and versatile set of mechanics. Though it takes some time to get to know all the menus, it does not require you to be an expert to play the game. I was able to basically pick up the controller and more or less run straight to the first real boss, where he promptly smacked my booty. Despite my limited playtime, it's inarguable that Nioh is an extremely polished game that takes some influences from the From Software titles, but has truly created its own unique experience, which I would give a tentative 8.5 out of 10, but that could likely be bumped up to a 9 if I actually played the dang game.
Dark Souls to me just isn't as easily accessible as Nioh. I felt like I had a lot pushing me back, and the difficulty curve is more like a fucking difficulty scatterplot. One enemy will be easily taken down while another will fart on the other side of the map and kill you. It's a fun challenge though once you get the hang of the mechanics and the intricacies of the combat system. Also, once you learn to dodge. After all is said and done, I give Dark Souls as a series a 9 out of 10. Its flaws are mostly its inaccessibility. I feel like you can only get into Dark Souls if you're already used to Dark Souls. Though it was fun, I just found myself getting lost in Nioh's world much more easily.
Boys and girls, Dark Souls changed my gosh dang life. I still play the first game all the time. My family plays it all the time. We speedrun it during
Non-denominational winter holiday.
We throw it birthday parties. It's a beautifully designed series, and some of the best games I've ever played. Go play it, you filthy casuals. Dark Souls is a 10 out of 10.
So in case you couldn't see, opinions can vary. All I can say is take into consideration what you like and make a decision that way. I much more prefer games like Dynasty Warriors.
I said stay on target.
And Ninja Gaiden, so I really enjoyed Nioh. Though I didn't have a bad time with Dark Souls, I just felt like the game played too much against me. And I know that's from me not being good enough. So thanks for watching the video, give it a like if you did, and subscribe for more gaming reviews and discussion videos. Sam, you want to plug anything?
Yes, you may or probably don't know me as the producer or host of the Best Buds podcasting network with great shows like The Advice is Right, Ultimate Losers, and The Disciples of Whoopi. There's plenty of great shows on there, so hop on over to iTunes or SoundCloud and follow us, give us a subscribe, review us, give us 5 stars, tell us you love us, tweet at us, follow us on Facebook, you know, the whole shtick.
Seriously guys, go check that out. The links will be in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next month.